If you're a Californian, like me, you live in time zone UTC-8, which Americans call Pacific Time. This time zone is also shared by Washington, Baja California, almost all of Nevada, most of Oregon, most of British Columbia, a small amount of Idaho, Clipperton Island, and the Pitcairn Islands, with the last two entities in this list being the only ones out of these that are UTC-8 all year round, all the others observing daylight savings time. Which is an incredibly dumb thing, for which it's an indictment of our society that it still hasn't gotten rid of it. Like pennies. And a few months ago, I realized that this time zone is the very worst time zone for being awake when other humans are awake, including when you fully factor in daylight savings time and the fact that California, like most places on that list, really spends more of the year in UTC-7 than UTC-8. Welcome to TwoLambdaPlusBlack. I am Heirua. Okay, so a human sleeps 8 hours a day. Supposedly. I hear. Averaging out which hours specific humans are awake to the same relative part of the day, this means the minimum amount of waking overlap one could have with another person is 8 hours, in any situation where the 8 hours of sleep of the two people are fully disjoint. So anywhere 8 or more time zones away from somewhere has the same minimum amount of waking overlap when we assume average sleep times. And UTC-8 and UTC-7, the latter being what UTC-8 effectively becomes during daylight savings, precisely maximize the amount of people in this minimally optimal zone. 8 hours behind UTC-8 would be UTC plus 8, and 8 hours behind UTC-7 would be UTC plus 9. 8 hours ahead of UTC-8 would be UTC, and 8 hours ahead of UTC-7 would be UTC plus 1. Nearly all of Eurafrasia is within the span from UTC plus 1 to UTC plus 8, the inner boundaries, and if you use the outer boundaries instead, UTC to UTC plus 9 includes the entirety of Eurafrasia excepting far eastern Siberia. And Eurafrasia is easily far more populated than the Americas, with 84% of humans living in Eurafrasia and only 13% of humans living in the Americas. So, if you're a Californian, or anyone else along the North American West Coast, you have the worst possible awake time overlap with 84% of humanity. Yes, you'd need to subtract far eastern Siberia from the 84% Eurafrasia figure, but that's a tiny amount of humans. Not to mention, you'd have to add back in the part of Australia that's west of UTC plus 9, which is about as many people as are in far eastern Siberia. Where, of course, in both cases, by many, I mean very few. Though one could argue whether UTC-8 or UTC-7 has the most pessimal situation for awake time overlap, maybe requiring some much more detailed math to ascertain, I'd argue that by being specifically in a daylight savings time configuration, where you alternate between UTC-8 and UTC-7, you have for practical purposes the worst situation for awake time overlap, because you'd have to deal with inconsistency. Not to mention, nearly the entire EU and EU-adjacent countries around them observe daylight savings time, notably at slightly different time change points than North America, which is just great for international coordination, while all the East Asian and Southeast Asian countries do not observe daylight savings time. So during Northern Hemisphere daylight savings, if you're a Californian, much of the people you're moving towards are also shifting their clocks away from you, maintaining the size of that gap. But the people you're moving away from are not shifting their clocks, widening that gap. Congratulations to us, we're in the time zone furthest from humanity. Are you also in UTC-8? How's it going? Are you not in UTC-8? Do you appreciate your better awake time access to more of humanity? Let us all know. Wherever you are, though, I hope that you remember to love the night.